After a long, arduous Season 1, the Valiant have grinded their way up to the top, improving their own play as well as acquiring some really key shot calling and playmaking players in Space and Custa. They're now the best team. And in fact, on the Stage 4 Finals day, they looked as dominant as NYXL have in the past, with really clean play that overcame not just their bitter rivals in the LA Gladiators, but a dominating win over the NYXL, full holding them 3 times. And even on the map NYXL won, they only took 1 point. They didn't even get B. And with all these accomplishments, you have to label the Valiant the best team right now. One thing that stuck out to me with the Valiant's clean play was their suffocating defense, a trait we used to ascribe to NYXL, but it looks like Valiant have taken their playbook and perfected it, especially with this Dorado defense, which has sort of evolved to be the meta. A lot of teams have run this setup, and most of them do, in fact, but the Valiant turned up big with it, full holding both the Gladiators and NYXL. We're going to take a look at how they were so successful, breaking down their disciplined play, and as well, how do they even break this setup, because they kept this point twice themselves. The first thing I want to point out, Kareev winning the duel on the flank. We're going to see this happen a few times, but it's his job to sniff out any shenanigans that are going on over that jump-up wall, typically with the aid of the Mercy, which we used to think of as an NYXL strat. Big responsibility on the Zenyatta. Now, NYXL here are playing what's called a pick comp. They don't brawl, they don't dive, and they don't really even have an ultimate combo to speak of. They need to win purely with their main attacks, getting positioning, and just getting pure regular kills in the mid-fight. To do this, they try to set up their own bunker and get angles with Jonak, Pine, and Libero to create a crossfire into this back corner. Typically, Hansel's used for this as well, but Pharah is good because she obviously can ignore the map and go wherever she wants at all times. And the big benefit for this for the defense is that the majority of their players, including their supports, are safe hiding in this house on the right. And even as NYXL start to get a few kills, Valiant are able to stabilize, stay safe inside, and at the last moment, Fate comes to touch the cart, reestablishing their defense, and then they take another fight. The problem is, when they run a Junkrat here, they can shell out of this position, and it just causes a nightmare. The offense would love to be able to go clean up kills in order to fully wipe the defense, but the Junkrat's too much of a threat. And just as NYXL thinks that they're going to be able to push it in, the res comes onto Fate, and the repositioning here is really great. Notice how they let the tanks contest and the Mercy Valk. Oftentimes at the pro level of play, you see Mercy Valk actually contest the cart as well. In Valkyrie form, at least, her cart presence is pretty good. This allows for the tanks to get healed and damage amped in order to win the frontline brawl, because you really can't lose it, otherwise you're going to lose the cart. And then the squishy damage dealers, Widow, Junkrat, and Zenyatta, play on the periphery, which hides from the snipers from NYXL. We see this mostly from Meko's point of view, but everyone's hidden from sniper lines of sight. Meko tries to go aggressive, but that's a big mistake while you're whole hogging. The angles the Valiant had on him allowed for the cart presence to go down, and then they have a couple man advantage, and they just press it from there. But we're gonna look at this again and note the timing windows that NYXL had to even work with. Jonak actually gets a pick on soon, and this isn't going to get rezzed. Whenever a kill happens in Overwatch, you need to have a clock in the back of your head clicking down on the 10 seconds they have until they respawn, and then maybe add a few for the travel distance to get them back from spawn. If you look carefully, Soon actually comes out of spawn and chunks Libero down. Libero gets hit for 50 and it scares him away. But the problem for NYXL is Agility's used the tire to kill Pine, so that means the only main damage dealer they have is Libero. So he has to go aggressive here in order to burst down a kill, and because he fails at getting a burst kill on the back line, while he's afraid of the zoning from Soon as well as the counter dive from Space, he can't get anything done either. In the chaos of all of this going on, Mano and Meko had to get a halt hook combination to find a kill somewhere, or Libero had to burst down one of the supports in the backline, because the Soon retake is coming. Libero is going to die to Soon. The ground battle had to be won much faster, but the problem is Agilities, who just used his tire, but just watch his ult charge skyrocket. By the time Meko pops out his whole hog, Agilities is halfway to his tire again, because we actually see the NYXL tanks try to bully their way into the house, but Agility says no, because honestly, in either case, if they try to go to the cart or to the back back door, Agilities is going to be able to see them. Realistically, the only way they win this fight is if they go wide outside of the range of the Junkrat and try to go kill Soon again, or get a hook angle onto the supports from around the statue. But the problem with that strategy is it just takes so long. Remember, we only have a few seconds to work with until Soon comes back, and the whole advantage we had for a moment is just gone. Okay, now NYXL is going to have 2 fights left, and they actually are going to attempt to go out wide outside the statue this time, but Agilities doesn't care. He's going to outplay them both times. But first, Soon actually does a odd decision to use his Infrasight before Pine does, which drains some clock, which ultimately is probably going to be a good thing, but gives NYXL a very big advantage in that they'll have Infrasight for the next 15 seconds, and Valiant won't. On the defense, normally you want to mirror it when you hear the attackers use it, but that actually gave them a bit of an advantage. However, I believe Fate pulls Pine into a Junkrat trap that was laid near the choke somewhere, because we see the assist from the Junkrat, takes down Pine, who isn't realistically in a resable area, and this is a bit of a shot-calling snafu from NYXL. Agilities reads that he has the opening in order to stuff this choke now, playing out in the open, no threat of Pine to snipe him. He just barrel stuffs the tanks and does a really cute trap onto the Orisa. This prompts a response from Jonak to pop Transcendence, but they use Transcendence in order to retreat. It's such a huge mistake. It stabilizes them, sure, but a very inefficient use of the ultimate. They'd much rather use Transcendence in order to press their tanks into an advantageous position, or perhaps keep their Pharah alive while she barrages. In any case, they re-establish control and start to try to set up wide around the statue, but they just can't do it without getting picked off. Agilities keeps getting a kill with these tires on a DPS, and they use the window with the pharmacy tied up in their own backline to go push into NYXL's backline. Jonak doesn't have a mercy pocket on him because they're spending it on Libero, who does eventually get rezzed, but this aggressive move during that timing window where the mercy is going to be tied up either with the Pharah, who just died rezzing, or going to take forever in order to get back to Jonak, just opens an opportunity for Space to go aggressive, get that kill. See, it's not just that Valiant are hiding in a hole, right? Because they know they can't just let the NYXL set up wide around this statue. They kind of have to get a bit active in order to disrupt the setup, otherwise they're just going to be fish in a barrel, and eventually this attack from NYXL would work. But getting into the waning moments here, a absolute hero play from Kariv, who did hero plays the entire playoffs, to be frank, but pops the Transcendence just in time in order to save himself and Agilities, who shows us again why you just can't go inside close range against a Junkrat. I love Junkrat plays. I know you guys don't think they're great, but what a clean defense. We're going to see this again as they go up against the Gladiators, who go at this in an entirely different way, because you could say, well, NYXL, they were going for that pick-off flank style. Pine failed on the wide flank, so they started to send him to the window and let Libero flank with the Pharah. What would happen if you tried a different strategy? Well, LA, I think, knowing that the Gladiators run different things than the NYXL do, put Agilities onto the Brigida, who's a very good pick for him as well, but enables their comp in kind of a different way. Now, because they don't have the Junkrat to shell out from the house, they can play in the courtyard a bit more, but they are incredibly vulnerable to the LA Gladiators steamrolling their front line with Rein Zarya. Rein Zarya is a great counter to the Orisa because they can bypass the shield, they can absorb spam, and can fight the bunker comp up close where they don't want to fight. But the Valiant knows their win condition in order to stabilize the bunker and keep it alive even against a rushdown front line that the Gladiators are putting up. Double sniper from them, at least at the start. If you look very carefully, you can see Surefour going for the jump over flank into the top right, and Hydration is going to be focused on the front line. In fact, the entire Gladiators are going to be trying to focus down the front line while Surefour looks for a pick. But good old Kariv is on the case. He doesn't let Surefour peek around that corner. He gets that kill. Again, often he's pocketed by the Mercy because the tanks in the bunker comp don't take damage. They're not supposed to. Oftentimes, especially in matchmaking, players want their Mercy to heal their tanks, but in a lot of situations, the Mercy needs to be on the backline damage dealer, especially your Zen. Bunker comp needs to avoid damage and try to let the barrier do the work, not the tank's face. Whereas the Rein Zarya is kind of the opposite. They are good at brawling, which shows off an inherent weakness. But the Valiant outplay the Gladiators even knowing they're coming at them with this strategy, because as soon as the Goats comp is trying to steamroll over the bunker, it's their job to get the heck out of there. You'd think Orisa being a horse could gallop away, but she's kind of slow. Either way, she's got to see this coming. Fate, Space, and Agilities have to see this coming and try to make it as expensive as possible for it to take as long as they can to survive in order to make time for Soon to hit shots, because the Goats comp can't really get to a character like Soon on the Widowmaker, who obviously is on high ground most of the time, but if it was a Pharah or a Junkrat in the back, whomever your long-range damage dealer shouldn't be able to be harassed at all. They should have free reign, but that means that your front line has to survive as long as possible, and Valiant does an excellent job on this each time the gladiators attempt to do this. Notice the first attack. Fissure's trying his hardest to press W mouse 1. The bunker, they keep backing off. They keep them contained, funneled into a choke. If they feel like they're going to have too much to handle, they'll run away. But as soon as the backline duels one against the Widowmaker, they know they kind of have an advantage and stand their ground there. Next attack. Fate actually kind of gets caught out here. The speed boost and bubbles pop. He retreats back, and that Fortify lasts quite a while. So long that the Gladiators decide to avoid it entirely, which is kind of a mistake, I think. Normally, you want to focus down the front line on Goat's comp, because if you don't, it takes so long for you to get a meaningful kill. Most of the Valiant run away, and then in the middle of that chaos, Soon does the heavy lifting, hits multiple shots. You might be asking yourself, well, what do I do in my matchmaking games if my Widowmaker doesn't hit shots? You got to just keep running away, honestly. Run further and further back and try to get medium range against the Brawl comp, and eventually you should be able to outdamage it, get a good halt in order to focus something. That's how you stabilize against it. In ranked right now, this would definitely be a Hanzo, but it could just as well be a Junkrat Pharah. You want a ranged damage dealer to find its mark. So knowing that Soon carried last fight, on this next Brawl up, they send Bishu after Soon to displace him, but it just isn't enough, because by this point, he has armor, so a D.Va can't even kill him anyway, but he just gets booped down, comes right back up, headshots Surefour, who after 2 minutes has no grab charge yet. He's been deleted and focused, and that's actually an important thing as well. As the Widowmaker player or big burst damage character in the back, it's their job to either outright delete a squishy. If you're Junkrat, find a quick combo with a nade and a mine. If you're Widowmaker, find a headshot on a support, or double dink the tanks. Zarya's head hitbox is very stable, very easy to hit. She's a great target to focus because that's where the brunt of their damage is going to come from. You can't let that Zarya get out of control, and when she's out of the mix and you just keep parrying back and retreating, it's really difficult for the Brawl comp to find damage on you that's going to surprise you. On the final attack, Soon changes his position, and at this point, Surefour swaps to a Widowmaker because he just isn't going to get a grab on time, and they have to have an answer for Soon. But the problem is Soon's hiding, and whereas Surefour might have been able to get a straight up duel if you went to the window, he goes for the mad flank around, which he gets successfully, but there's just support ults and tanks everywhere on his side. Fortify, Valkyrie, what does he even have to hit here, really? He needed to kill Soon, but at this point, I don't even know what the Gladiators can do to get a kill on them when they still have rally armor on, and they're going to get both their support ults in this fight. They really needed a Shatter and D.Va Bomb to get kills because nothing else was going to, unless Surefour just absolutely popped off. Ultimately, this advantage that the Valiant built for themselves comes over the previous fights where they were so economical and clean with how they executed and honestly just destroyed this strategy. And I don't even know why Gladiators tried to run this so much against them again. In Stage 4, in the head-to-head, I did a video about Soon going God mode, and man, Soon has really improved. He had a lot of shaky Widowmaker games in the season, but the new coaching, new atmosphere, new teammates, it's really revitalized him and made him a devastating Widowmaker when he was not very scary previously. But it just seems like he knows exactly who to target, either the supports or the carry of the team comp, the Zarya. He did that to Surefour in both outings, and it looks really clean. And as I said before, everybody's running this defense. This isn't something that Valiant necessarily cooked up on their own. It's just something that they're running quite well. So we get a chance to see how they break it themselves. Well, against NYXL, they only needed to get it to first. So that's going to probably change how they approach this, but they open with the double sniper themselves, and they send agilities on the Hanzo back here, which I think is ultimately just better than the Widow. I mean, think about it. Does Widow really want to fire at these really weird angles? I don't know why so many Widows were going for that wide flank when it's so much easier to send either a Hanzo or a Pharah there. Not to mention he has the drop down insta kill with the scatter arrow on this patch. Of course, storm arrow would work quite similarly as well, just popping down there and grabbing a kill, getting out, being able to lunge away. But whether agilities is successful in his flanking mission or not, the Rein Zarya combo is really good at overwhelming the Orisa, either getting past her or just brawling her down. Note that NYXL are running the Junkrat here. That's going to allow for Space to get some charge, and almost no matter what, even if NYXL trade back rather favorably, as long as their tanks don't die and Space keeps his charge, eventually they're going to be able to just run over whatever cart presence characters the NYXL tries to throw at it. But that was a rather easy one. The one against the Gladiators actually was probably even a better look. Let's take a look at how Valiant dismantled the Gladiators setup when they're the ones attacking first. Didn't need to only get first here, and they're more or less running the same attack. Soon going for these long lines of sight. I love Widow in this angle better. I don't know why anybody tries to send her on the flank, but Agility somehow gets the Widow. Long range snipe from around the window or the small alley there. It does get rezzed anyway, but that leads for the Mercy to be exploitable. Soon takes advantage of that. And all this is fairly standard because ultimately the defense is trying to contest the cart at this point anyway. They want to place the bunker right here in order to contest the cart and try at least to have their squishies and Junkrat carry out of it just like the Valiant did. The problem is they can't have Big Goose die or else this happens. Both tanks get whittled down quite easily, and honestly Big Goose just barely gets to save Fissure here in time. Look at his health pool. If they burst down Fissure there, they probably win the point anyway, but I think Space plays a bit more of a conservative off-tank than that. They didn't really want to over-aggress and lose their Zarya charge. It's not really worth it, even if they could have gone wide around this bunker and exploited the tanks and then ultimately the Mercy, who probably would have rezzed him. That probably wins the fight right there, but in any case, Space ends the fight, regrouping at like 90% Graviton surge charge, and in the chaos of that fight, they forced out Transcendence, which I don't really think the Gladiators needed to use, because as soon as Fate's down on the main tank, you have a massive respawn advantage when you're on the defense. Because think about it, if Valiant don't have their main tank, and you do, it's very easy to play keep away and stall out the cart, even if they do get a pick on somebody, because your respawn can eventually come back. What the Valiant really need to do is wipe out the cart presence so that then they can cap the point, which is their entire point of being here, right? But in any case, Space keeps his energy, goes back into the fight, leveled up, maximum charge, and gets an under 2-minute Graviton with no Transcendence to stop it. That's just going to be a free win. Really gutsy call right here. Luckily, Bishu wasn't just defense matrixing out of the blue in order to take that out, but the recon arrow really helped out in order to find a money Graviton there. And even if they did have Transcendence, as many of us know from the live patch, they could have damage amped the Hanzo and did a little bit more damage and blasted through it anyway. I think the Rein Zarya is an excellent call in order to break this bunker defense. If that doesn't work, you could also go to a Winston Zarya, because Winston can play a bit aggro in order to get charged for you and really contain anyone who wants to play outside of that house hiding in that hole. Well guys, that ends my thoughts on the sensational hold from the Valiant on Dorado, as well as how they end up capping it. One last clip that I wanted to show that I think really highlights where the Valiant are at as a team right now was how they rebounded on this point B defense against NYXL. It ended up not mattering because they got full held themselves and lost the map. It's the one map they did lose, but it's this type of adjustment, knowing the order of operations of what your priorities are from moment to moment, that I thought was really, really cool. Up top, NYXL has a ton of ults, all 6 in fact, and use the damage amp from the Mercy, the survivability from the Zen ult, barrage bomb, everything. They just throw it at them, trying to get as many kills as possible, because of course, in order to get control of a 2 CP point, you have to frag fast. However, this Transcendence from Kareev stalls out for his respawns to come back, and now they have to win an entire extra fight as well. Valiant are still disadvantaged here, but because they have ults and NYXL don't, they're able to use the D.Va ult to zone, and eventually, Custa decides to just go right at Libero with the Valkyrie, and this helps them juggle the Mercy pocket. Because Mercy has to come over to save Libero, that's when you know it's time to go get Jonak. Fate dives in, he gets that kill, and then the dive tanks in tandem are able to easily focus down Libero, and NYXL went from a fight where it looked like they were pedal to the metal, going to take control of everything, and get a big retake on them, only getting a tick out of the push, which is pretty unacceptable. This is why you kind of need those cleanup ultimates as well. You can't pop everything at the choke. You're going to have a plan B and C for when the stalls and retakes come in. But really clean play out of the Valiant. Well done. I look forward to seeing them in the playoffs. I think they're going to go to the finals, and it depends how the semifinal games work out, but based on the rule that they cannot play a low seed that's going to go to NYXL, they can't play Philly if they win. They may end up against Boston, London, or the Gladiators, and really only the Gladiators have a chance against them, I think. Either the other two, I think they're going to have their way with. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below, and if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to leave it a like. It really does help us out and lets us know that you're enjoying the content. If you haven't already, please subscribe because we upload each and every day, so you're going to hit the bell icon so that you get notified when our videos go live. Link in the description is our Twitter, where we tweet out news, updates, and dank memes. That's been it for me. I've been FREEDO for Your Overwatch. I'll see you guys next time.